This is very sweet scripture composed by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And so I'll just chant one prayer. You can repeat after me. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So I'll read this verse. This is from the Adi Lila, 6th chapter, 28th verse. And the title of the chapter is The Glories of Sri Advaita Acharya. And just read the verse first. The verse reads, Jiva Nishtarila Krishna Bhakti Karidana Gita Bhagavata Kaila Bhaktira Vyakhana. Translation. He delivered all living beings by offering the gift of Krishna Bhakti. He explained the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the light of devotional service. Purport. Although Sri Advaita Prabhu is an incarnation of Vishnu for the welfare of the conditioned souls, he manifested himself as a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And throughout all his activities, he showed himself to be an eternal servitor. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda also manifested the same principle, and they also belong to the category of Vishnu. If Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and Advaita Prabhu had exhibited their all-powerful Vishnu potencies within this material world, people would have become greater impersonalists, monists, and self-worshippers than they had already become under the spell of this age. Therefore, the personality of Godhead and his different incarnations and forms played the parts of devotees to instruct the conditioned soul on how to approach the transcendental stage of devotional service. Advaita Acharya especially intended to teach the conditioned souls about devotional service. The word Acharya means teacher. The special function of such a teacher is to make people Krishna conscious. A bona fide teacher, all following in the footsteps of Advaita Acharya, has no other business than to spread the principles of Krishna consciousness all over the world. The real qualification of an Acharya is that he presents himself as a servant to the Supreme. Such a bona fide Acharya can never support the demoniac activities of atheistic people who present themselves as God. It is the main business of an Acharya to define such impostors posing as God before the innocent public. So let's chant the invocation. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Dapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Rindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Krupa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to take a little detour today. So this is a very auspicious time of the calendar for us. Because as I mentioned, today is the very wonderful day of the appearance of Advaita Acharya. And then next Thursday is the appearance of, anyone knows? Next Thursday? Yes, Lord Nityananda. And then on March 6th, which is a Monday, is the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is kind of a perfect opportunity for us to study and understand a little bit about the Panchatattva, the five personalities of God, of Krishna, who has come to teach the process of devotional service. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is teaching us that, again, to find perfection of life, one must first understand that who I am, who is my eternal identity. And as we have come to study repeatedly, we are spirit soul. And the function of the spirit soul is to be engaged in loving relationships with the Supreme Lord. And this is the eternal activity of the soul. But due to some loss of consciousness, we have been trying to engage in so many other activities, and those leave us in a state of challenge. And so Krishna gave all the principles how to practice devotional service. In the end, he says, just surrender unto me. That's it. Chant my holy names. Become my devotee. Think of me. These things he gave. Very, straightforward principles. But because we are not so clear in following instructions, Krishna was lamenting a little bit. He was feeling that, I have told everything how to find this real happiness in life. But I'm feeling like I did not show it, how to do it, step by step. I told step by step, but I didn't show it. And so Krishna actually descends again after wrapping up his Dwarka pastimes, his Vrindavan pastimes, his Mathura Lila pastimes. He appears in the age of Kali Yuga, a little over 500 years ago. Krishna himself appeared for the purpose of teaching the process of devotional service. And he is called Mahavadanaya, which means the most merciful. The most merciful. And so why he is called the most merciful, that we will study between now and March 6th, which is again the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when Krishna came just 500 years ago to teach devotional service, he comes in the mood of a devotee. So he's not coming establishing himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Ham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarva pravartate. He says, I am the source of everything. He says, there is no truth superior to me. All throughout Bhagavad Gita, he's establishing, I am Purushottama, the Supreme Person. But when he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is coming in a covered mood. I mean, he is coming in the mood of a devotee to show devotion. And what makes this appearance of Krishna so wonderful and magnanimous and so merciful is that he came to teach the highest principles of bhakti. So we know that in seeing the pastimes of Krishna, when Krishna was in Vrindavan, those pastimes were the most intimate and highest, deepest exchange of love between his devotees and Krishna. They were full of intense attachment to the Supreme Lord, the residents of Vrindavan. They're called the Ragatmika Bhaktas. They're full of attachment to Krishna and nothing else. And this love is so powerful that Krishna actually subordinates himself to this love. Meaning, he'll do whatever his devotees want him to do. When, the elderly gopis of Vrindavan, Krishna was asking for some buttermilk. Just one small cup of buttermilk. And they would say, you dance first, then we'll give you this buttermilk. And Krishna would dance so beautifully. And he was like a puppet in the hands of, just for a cup of buttermilk. But he was not looking for that buttermilk. He was anxious for the love from these devotees. So, when the cowherd boys would play, they would wrestle and have matches like boys do. And then, Krishna would lose. And then he would have to carry the cowherd boys home on his shoulders like this. And the cowherd boys are enjoying, taking service from Krishna. And I think, wait a minute. We thought we're supposed to serve Krishna. But actually, the residents of Vrindavan have so much love that Krishna actually enjoys this relationship. So it is the highest exchange of love. So how to achieve this very elevated position? The great yogis who spend thousands of years in meditation and intense austerity. The great jnanis who study Shastra to no end. They cannot, it's explained, cannot even come to the edge of these pastimes. So what is our hope? These great personalities have no hope. What is our hope? Well, our hope actually lies in the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to give this highest exchange of love, but with the simplest of process. He says you don't need to endure intense austerity. You don't need to become, an elaborate scholar of Shastra. He says simply by chanting the holy names of the Lord. Just by chanting the holy names of the Lord and the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can achieve this highest platform, the ultimate platform. And thus Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is most merciful. But even more his mercy, because he was distributing this to everyone. He said he flooded the land with Krishna Prema. So when a flood comes, when the waters break the bank of the river, where does the water settle first? High ground or low ground?
Low ground.
The water will find the low ground. Like that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, it finds the most fallen first. He's not saying, okay, if you have this qualification, if you have this qualification, if you have achieved this, then you can access my mercy. No. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so compassionate, so merciful, that he goes to the most fallen of fallen and gives this greatest of gift, this treasure, which he can uplift one. And he showed this in his own pastime. And still today we see the potency of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. So this is why he is considered most merciful. So how many of us would like to receive the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Very powerful. So Narottam Das Thakur says, in this very sweet bhajan, he says, Doya koro sitapati Advaita Gosai Tava kripa bale pai Chaitanya nitai. Doya koro. give me the mercy. Who? Advaita Gosai. I need the mercy of Advaita Acharya. Why? Davak Kipa Bale Pai Chaitanya. To receive the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda, we need the mercy of Advaita Acharya. So, this is why we're very fortunate. So we get to study first Advaita Acharya on his appearance day today and beg for his blessings and mercy so that we may obtain the mercy of Lord Nityananda next week and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a few weeks to follow. So, and when somebody gives us a very nice gift, how does our mood of that person change? Right? Somebody gives us a nice gift. How do we feel? Huh? Positively, right? We develop more attraction, love, respect. So by understanding what Advaita Acharya has actually given us, our love and appreciation for Advaita Acharya will increase. So the fact that many of us are coming to know about Advaita Acharya for the first time is very wonderful, because now we'll develop a great appreciation for his position and his gift to us in devotional service. And as I said, we'll continue this narration. So, who is Advaita Acharya? So, the Pancha Tattva. These are Pancha Tattva, 5 personalities. So we have this verse, Pancha Tattva Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. So, this Pancha Tattva Krishnam. So, Krishna has appeared in 5 personalities for the one purpose, to teach devotional service. He's appeared as Bhakta Rupa, that is Krishna himself, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has appeared as Bhakta Swarupa, which means the expansion, that is Lord Nityananda. And he has appeared as Bhakta Avatara, the incarnation, and that is Advaita Acharya. So Advaita Acharya is one of the 5 Panchatattvas. If you have seen a picture of Panchatattva, you don't see one here. He is the furthest leftmost personality, often shown with a gray beard. So that is one marker. And so, who is he? We see in the beginning of this chapter, Advaita Acharya is the appearance of Mahavishnu. So he is Mahavishnu. And
what about other 2 personalities?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, and Lord Nityananda is the first expansion, is Lord Balaram. That we'll discuss next week.
Other 2 personalities. You told 5 Panchatattvas.
Oh, yeah, Gadadhar Pandit is the Shakti Tattva, a particular mood of Srimati Radharani. And Srivas Thakur is the Bhakta Akhya, that is the pure devotee of the Lord. So Advaita Acharya is again Mahavishnu, and he is given the name Acharya, as we read in the purport, because he's coming for the purpose of teaching devotional service. Okay? So just a little bit of the background on this. So now we can discuss a little bit about Advaita Acharya's appearance, maybe some of his pastimes, and some of the teachings that he showed through his pastimes. Okay, so Advaita Acharya, he appeared about 52 years prior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is why when we see Panchatattva, he is appearing in an elderly form, because from a material time calculation, he appeared 52 years prior. We don't really say older because they are eternal existence, but he appeared 52 years prior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he appeared in current day, modern day Bangladesh, in the district of Sylhet, in the town of Navagram. And he appeared on this 7th day of the waxing moon in the month of Magh, which is today. And his father was Kuber Mishra, and his mother was Navadevi. So that is where he appeared. So his actual born name was Kamalaksha, which means lotus-eyed. It's a very sweet name. And being Mahavishnu himself, he had a very illustrious childhood. He was an extremely erudite scholar. He had mastered the study of Sanskrit in just 3 years. Normally it's like a 12-year process. But he was very, very erudite. He used to study with the king's son, the prince, and they used to do various activities. And once Advaita Acharya's parents left, Advaita Acharya left Bangladesh and then went on a tour of India and going to all the different holy places. And he ultimately ended up in Vrindavan. And there in Vrindavan, he was doing his bhajan at a place called Advaita Tila. And there, in his meditation, actually Krishna came into his dream and said that my deity is buried in this particular place. And so Advaita Acharya, taking that message, went and unearthed this beautiful deity. And that deity is actually this Madan Mohan Ji deity. This deity is our Sambandha Gyan. So in Vrindavan, there are some principal deities, and Madan Mohan Ji is our deity that helps us establish our relationship with Krishna. So once we understand our relationship with Krishna, then we can actually act in that relationship. So first I have to know what the relationship is, that's Sambandha. Then I act in that relationship, Abhideya. And from there, then I can get the result of that relationship. And that is the Prayoga. So Madan Gopal is typically the first deity we go to take darshan of in Vrindavan, because it is establishing our relationship with Krishna. So this deity was found by Advaita Acharya. Its history far predates this, but this is the current history. And then as we all know, after leaving Vrindavan to go back towards the east, he left the deity with Parshuram Kuber, who then Sanatana Goswami later obtained those deities and established the beautiful temple that exists today. But anyway, so Advaita Acharya had established that. So now when Advaita Acharya left Vrindavan, he came to Shantipur, which is a town not too far from Navadvip. But he also had a home in Navadvip in Mayapur, and that is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. Of course, he appeared some 52 years later, but kind of rewinding the clock. So in Shantipur, Advaita Acharya, as we read in this verse, was preaching very heavily Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Was explaining the principles of devotional service. And he was trying to break the bonds of attachment to material life of the conditioned souls. And we know, is this bond very easy to break? How many of us have heard that we are not this body, we are spirit soul? We all heard it. But how easy is it for us to live that? Please come from. You don't have to leave an exit way for me, by the way. I'm not going to run away, so you can come closer also. No problem. I don't bite. So Advaita Acharya was preaching like this very heavily and very distinctly. But still, he was not able to convince those to take to the process of devotional service. So he concluded, I am Mahavishnu, I am an expansion of Krishna. This is too heavy of a job. So we have to call in reinforcements. So who's he going to call? He's going to call Krishna himself. He says, Krishna, you have to come and do this. I'm trying, but with all of my ability, it's not happening. So he decided this is a job for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he decided to call Krishna. How do you call Krishna? Like if you want to call, some great famous actor or a sports athlete or a politician, a king, you just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, can you come to my house?" Does that work?
No.
Reach out to the secretary or PA.
Reach out, and the probability of it happening. How is Advaita Acharya going to call the Supreme Personality of Godhead to come and perform this mission? So Advaita Acharya remembered a very famous verse, Tulasi Dala Matrena, that when one offers tulasi leaves and some Ganges water, one can actually purchase the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, that's a very interesting statement in and of itself. How one can purchase with some leaf and water the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, Krishna is not being purchased by the leaf and the water. He is being purchased by the love of the devotee who is offering that leaf and the water. That's why Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya parayachati. Yes, you can offer me a leaf, a fruit, a flower, water, but it must come with love. That is the ingredient Krishna is looking for. Love. Not the salt and masala and sugar and that's all secondary. The primary ingredient is the love in that offering. So Advaita Acharya understood. So he began to worship his Shaligram Shila with great intensity. And he was offering tulsi leaves and Ganges water. And in this way he was roaring very loud. Krishna! Krishna! Please come. With great sincerity and enthusiasm and determination. We have a great lesson that when we chant the holy names of the Lord, we are chanting on a daily basis this japa. But that japa should be purposeful. What is the purpose of our chanting the holy names? It is not a mechanical process. It's an actual prayer. It's an intense prayer. Advaita Acharya was calling out to Krishna for the purpose of bringing Krishna here to save all conditioned souls. So similarly, when we are chanting the holy names of the Lord, we should have a very intense purpose in our chanting. And that is to reconnect with Krishna himself, to help us overcome all of the impurities of our heart so that we can connect to him on a pure basis. Not just mechanically chanting. Yes, that is better than nothing. But as we add purpose to our chanting, the result intensifies many times more. So Advaita Acharya was very intensely calling out. In a later pastime, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, it is because of the loud cries of Advaita Acharya and the very sweet kirtans of Srivas Thakur that I descended here. So Advaita Acharya performing this service for all of us is by his mercy that Krishna himself descended as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Advaita Acharya, began to continue on with his different activities. By this time, he had established some schools that was teaching both Sanskrit and devotional service. Learning Sanskrit without learning devotional service has no value. It becomes a simply a material education. So Advaita Acharya was teaching, the highest principles of devotional service. And he was teaching in Shantipur and also in Mayapur, right next to Shivasangan, very near to the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would appear a short time later at the home of Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata. So he was teaching here, and Jagannath Mishra, Sachimata's first son, used to go to school with Advaita Acharya. And after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had appeared, he was a young boy, 2 years old or so. And Sachimata would send little Nimai and said, go call your brother. Go call him. It's time for prasad. You know, like when mother has to call for the child, they'll send somebody, you know, bring him back home. So like this, Nimai would go to the school of Advaita Acharya. But when Advaita Acharya would see this boy walking, he would be like stunned and just stop, and he could not speak. He could not talk anymore. He was just so attracted to the beauty. And he's trying to think, what? Nothing in this material world has ever attracted my attention. Why this boy is captivating my heart so much? He could not understand. But this would happen time and time again as Nimai would come and take his brother back home. Oh, there's another related pastime that is also very instructive for us with Advaita Acharya. So I'll fast forward a little bit and then I'll rewind back. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's elder brother was learning from Advaita Acharya, he began to develop a very intense mood of devotional service. And eventually he decided to basically, become a sannyasi and leave home. And so Sachimata was like devastated, of course, losing her son, but not really losing her son, but giving her son in devotional service. And so Sachimata became a little bit, worried, because then as Nimai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his name was Nimai, in his early childhood, as he began to go to the school of Advaita Acharya, what was happening? That same mood of renunciation was developing, and Sachimata became very, very concerned. So once, it's kind of a fleeting moment, he said, this Advaita, his name is Advaita, which means it should be to unite. Actually, he is Dvaita, because he is separating my family. Like this. She just simply had this thought in her mind. Never said it to anybody, just had this thought. Like that, and then of course it dissipated, and she carried on. And so many, many years later, there was a great pastime where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving out all kinds of benedictions during this Mahaprakash Lila. 21 hours. He was blessing all of the devotees. Every devotee would come. They would ask for some blessing, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would give. And what were these devotees asking for? $1 billion, a promotion in their job, another new BMW. They were asking for, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please give me the taste of chanting the holy names. Chaitanya, please free my heart of the burden of envy and greed and pride and illusion. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please give me the determination to stay fixed in a devotional service. Like this, they're all praying for the things that are really important. So at some time, they were wondering, and so like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving out Krishna Prema to everybody. But one person was left out. And who was that? His own mother, Sachimata. And they were stunned, so they said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how come? Please, bestow this blessing upon Sachimata also. And what did he say? No, she's an offender. And everybody was stunned. How Sachimata, the most beloved, how she could be an offender? Impossible. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, no, she has offended the great Advaita Acharya. How he knew? She never spoke a word. Because Krishna knows everything. Krishna knows what's in the core of our hearts. We don't have to speak it. We don't have to tell it. It is known to the Supreme Lord. So they went to Sachimata and they explained, this is what happened. And she was stunned. Oh, I've created a great offense. And so she runs to this place where the Mahaprakash Lila was taking place, and Advaita Acharya was there. And she went and begged for forgiveness from Advaita Acharya. But Advaita Acharya was like stunned. This was so painful for him to hear that Sachimata was begging forgiveness. She was, worshipable to him. She was mother of the Supreme Lord. And Advaita Acharya said, no, nonsense. You could have never offended someone like me. And she tried to grab the dust of the feet of Advaita Acharya to grab forgiveness. And he refused. No, that you cannot do that. And then Advaita Acharya began to glorify Sachimata. And he began to glorify Sachimata, being the eternal mother of the Supreme Lord, the purity of her devotion, the sincerity of her bhakti. And in this way, Advaita Acharya was glorifying Sachimata so extensively that he fainted in ecstasy. He passed out. And at that point, Sachimata said, here's my chance. And she went and grabbed the feet of Advaita Acharya. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw this exchange, and he became very pleased. And of course, Sachimata is the eternal, pure devotee of the Lord. But the point that Krishna was teaching us through Advaita Acharya and Mother Sachi is the danger of creating offenses to the devotee. Even to the extent of her own mother could be precluded from the highest realms of bhakti through an offense. Of course, she was not an offender, but through her example, this was shown to us. It also speaks to the power, the importance that we must be very careful. See, in Kali Yuga, if one thinks of a sinful activity but does not perform it, there is no sin. It must translate into action. But when it comes to offenses to the devotee, even thinking ill of a devotee is considered an offense, let alone if one actually performs some activity. So even thinking. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to show us this through the example of Mother Sachi. So we should be very careful of Vaishnava aparad. Aparad. What that means? Aparad. Against Radharani, the topmost devotee of the Lord. It's the meaning of aparad. We should be very, very careful. But in due course, we may make a mistake. We may make an offense. And Sachimata and Advaita Acharya show us how one should behave in such a circumstance. Did Sachimata, when she heard she offended, say, I'm the mother of the Supreme Lord? I don't need to beg for a... No. She took an extremely humble position and very eagerly tried to repent for her mistake. And did Advaita Acharya take the position of, yes, you're an offender, bow down, take... No. She took it as, I could never be the recipient of an offense from Mother Sachi. He also took an extremely humble position. The other thing we see is that Advaita Acharya, he began to glorify Mother Sachi. And what happened? He fainted in consciousness. Because that glorification was sincere. It was real. Sometimes we pay lip service. But the real mood of the devotee is to be sincere. And Advaita Acharya showed us this. So we understand from this exchange the dangers of Vaishnava aparad. And of course, mistakes are going to happen. And when they do, we should take a very humble mood. Both Advaita Acharya and Sachimata remain extremely humble. And in that way, that issue was very easily and quickly resolved. There was no need for any extended circumstances to manifest. And that is the nature of interactions with devotees. So we learned this very, very important pastime from Advaita Acharya. So as I said, I fast forwarded. Now to rewind back. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once decided to finally tell Advaita Acharya, still at this point, prior to this exchange at the school, Advaita Acharya had no idea whether his prayer was answered. As Krishna come, he had the doubt, maybe this little boy, but he didn't know for sure. So once he's on the bank of the Ganges and he's meditating intensely to perform his Shaligram worship. And every time he meditates, Krishna comes in his vision. He's a very powerful devotee. And so he is doing his worship. But this day, nobody's coming but this naughty Nimai. This boy Nimai keeps coming into his dream, his vision. And he shakes up, opens up, restarts his meditation, and this Nimai comes. Third time, finds out, okay, let me think about a different form of Krishna, then tries that, nothing, but only this Nimai keeps coming. Then finally, many times he's trying to bring Krishna into his meditation, and this boy comes. And then Nimai and Gadadhar Pandit are walking and they see Advaita Acharya. And Nimai taps on the shoulder of Advaita Acharya. He turns around and realizes, this boy is the same person coming. And then he understood, Krishna has come. So he takes all of his worship paraphernalia and he begins to worship Nimai. And Gadadhar Pandit is looking and says, this old man is worshipping this little boy? What's going on? What is happening? And Advaita Acharya says, Gadadhar Pandit, just wait. You will soon see who this boy is. And from that point, Advaita Acharya realized that his prayers were answered and that Krishna himself had come to deliver all of us from this fallen condition. But of course, Advaita Acharya wanted second proof, proof upon proof. So he decided to go back to Shantipur after this incident. And there he waited. And he said, if Krishna has really come, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will call for me from Shantipur and I'll come. So he went all the way to Shantipur and waited. And on the day that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was celebrating the Vyas Puja to Lord Nityananda, another very sweet pastime we will discuss next Friday. On that day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was calling out, Nara, Nara, Nara! And everyone's like, who is this Nara, Nara, Nara? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, go call that old man. He was referring, of course, to Advaita Acharya. They had a very sweet, loving relationship. And so he sent the younger brother, Srivas Thakur, Ramai Pandit. He said, go to Shantipur and bring Nara. Well, he's calling Nara because he was roaring so loud and he woke up his sleep. He's saying, he woke me up and made me come. Tell him I have come. So now Advaita Acharya is fired up. So Ramai Pandit comes to his house, says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is calling you. He says, all right. So he takes his wife Sita Rani Thakur, their sons, and they pack up all the worship paraphernalia and they go to Mayapur. But Advaita Acharya wants another test. So he goes to the house of Nandan Acharya. He says, don't tell Chaitanya Mahaprabhu I went there, but if he really is the Supreme Lord, he'll know I am in the house of Nandan Acharya. So Ramai Pandit returns back home to the house of Srivas Thakur, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, where is Advaita? He says, I don't know. He says, go call him from Nandan Acharya's house. And so when Ramai Pandit goes back to Nandan Acharya's house, he realizes, wow, now this Krishna has appeared. And so as Advaita Acharya is walking from Nandan Acharya's house, which is not too far, it's just, maybe less than a kilometer. From there, he's walking down the road towards Srivasangan. Advaita Acharya has a desire. He says, I really want to see Krishna in a very royal, opulent mood. And I want to take the feet of the Lord on my head. This is my strong desire. And so, as he's desiring, who is hearing that desire? So Krishna says, oh, Advaita wants to see me in a very opulent mood. Okay. So then he climbs up onto a throne. Lord Nityananda takes a big umbrella. Gadadhar Pandit is feeding betel nut. Other devotees are massaging the feet. And if we understand, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never showed this type of pastime because, again, he was coming in the mood of a devotee. But because his devotee had a desire, he suppressed his own mood for the desire of his devotees. And in this we see so much other lessons. One, our prayers to the Lord are always heard. We sometimes wonder, is Krishna hearing? He always hears our prayers. They never go unheard. He hears the transcendental medium. Before we even speak it, He knows what's in our heart, what's in our minds. Yes, somebody else may not know, everybody else, but Krishna knows. And we always can rest assured. He always hears our prayers. And when it comes to His devotee's desire or His own desire, whose desire wins?
Devotee desire.
Always. When Krishna says, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja, you abandon everything and surrender unto me, we foolishly think, oh, that's really nice of Krishna. We have to surrender everything to Krishna. But how does Krishna reciprocate? He surrenders everything he has to his devotees. And who has more to surrender, us or Krishna?
Krishna.
Right? Just like in the home. When the child gives whatever they have to parents, how do parents reciprocate?
Parents should give back more.
Give back more. Who wins in that transaction?
Kid.
We are the kid. Krishna always reciprocates. So in this way, Advaita Acharya goes to Shiva Sangha and he sees Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this very grand way and he becomes very ecstatic. And he again faints in ecstasy. And then he awakens and he recites the very famous prayer, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanitaya Cha Jagatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Establishing that this is Krishna himself. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanitaya Cha. The protector of the cows and brahmanas. He is, come here. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Advaita Acharya offers great worship. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agrees to his desire and offers his feet to the head of Advaita Acharya. And like this, Advaita Acharya was very ecstatic. And then he returned to Shantipur. But the exchanges between Advaita Acharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take a change in mood. Because actually Advaita Acharya, by, again, calculations, is senior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? And in the mood of devotee, in the mood of bhakti, Krishna is showing us a very important understanding. So because Krishna took, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation from Ishvara Puri. And Ishvara Puri took initiation from Madhavendra Puri. And Advaita Acharya also took initiation from Madhavendra Puri. When Madhavendra Puri was on his journey to obtain Chandan for Gopalji, he actually stopped at the home of Advaita Acharya. And there, Advaita Acharya was so overwhelmed with devotion that he accepted initiation there from Madhavendra Puri. So Ishvara Puri and Advaita Acharya were god brothers. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw, so our Guru is known as our spiritual father. And our Guru's god brothers are known as like our spiritual uncles. And we know in our culture, right, we treat uncles and father like the same, with the same respect. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to always, show great respect to Advaita Acharya. He would offer obeisances, he would grab and Advaita Acharya would always try to fight, but he was an old man, so he could never get away. He was always being frustrated and like this, and he was not happy that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing him so much respect. But of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is following the proper etiquette to show us the etiquette of how we should behave ourselves. So Advaita Acharya decides, he concocts a plan. He's going to say, I'm going to show who's really the supreme and who is the fallen. So what does he do? He says, I have to find a way to make Chaitanya Mahaprabhu angry at me. So he goes back to Shantipur and he starts preaching this bogus philosophy, this atheistic philosophy. So of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knows. He says, Nityananda, let's go. We have not seen that Advaita in some time. Let's go to Shantipur. So they start their way to Shantipur. Some nice pastimes happen along the way, but in the interest of time, we won't go through those. And so as Advaita Acharya sees Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Nityananda coming, he gets out the Vyasasana and he gets up on it and he really starts forcefully like preaching this atheistic philosophy. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming closer and closer, he gets more and more emphatic and more descriptive. And of course, this is a transcendental pastime. And so, and he sees that now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is mad. He says, yes, I have gotten to him. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, takes Advaita Acharya off the Vyasasana. He jumps on him and he's beating him. And Sita Rani is saying, stop, he's an old man, he'll die. And of course, this is in Advaita Acharya is in ecstasy, saying, see, now we know who is supreme. That you're the supreme personality of Godhead. And so Advaita Acharya became very, very ecstatic in this exchange. So, he was very eager to worship the Supreme Lord as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of devotion, was always showing great respect to Advaita Acharya. And so, so these are some of the pastimes of Advaita Acharya. There are many, many more wonderful pastimes. But just to summarize, Advaita Acharya is the appearance of Mahavishnu, who has come as Acharya to teach us the process of devotional service. And he has given us the greatest of all gifts, which is to bring Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself, in the mood of a devotee, who is Mahavadanaya, so freely spreading this unlimited mercy. He has given it to us. And as Narottam Das Thakur says, that without the mercy of Advaita Acharya, we cannot get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. But to approach them, we must first Doya Koro Sitapati Advaita Goswami. We must get this mercy from Advaita Goswami. Then Tava Kripa Bale Pai Chaitanya Nityananda. So this is the opportunity we have on today, his most glorious appearance day. So we pray to Advaita Acharya to follow his instructions, his guidance for us, and we can express our gratitude for giving us the greatest of all gifts, the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as we said, someone who gives us a great gift, our appreciation for them increases. And I hope in learning a little bit about Advaita Acharya today, our appreciation and love for Advaita Acharya has increased. Thank you very much. Advaita Acharya appearance Mahotsav ki Jai. Prabhupada ki Jai. Any questions or comments, discussion?
Why Lord Chaitanya took so many years to appear on the Advaita Acharya 52 years? What about us?
So why he took time? So like this, his devotees come to kind of prepare the opportunity, to prepare the environment. We'll see next week, Lord Nityananda appeared 12 years before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So 52 and then 12, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. And of course, this is the divine arrangement of the Supreme Lord. So Advaita Acharya had different activities that he was performing, but to give him the credit for that. And we'll see in a few weeks, actually, that Advaita Acharya calling Krishna to come actually was an external reason, that Krishna had a more intimate internal reason why he also wanted to come. And so to facilitate that also, Advaita Acharya praised this for him. So this is the divine arrangement of the Supreme Lord to give his devotees the opportunity to perform these pastimes and also for us to relish them.
Advaita Acharya is the name, or he created the concept Advaita?
No, that's his name, Advaita Acharya. That comes from the spiritual world. It is obviously just different from this Advaita philosophy, right? Of oneness. That is not, of course, we understand that we are eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord.
How then in the Bhagavad Gita, how the Krishna told that I am the supreme personality, I am the Godhead. So same thing like that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Advaita Gadadhar, did they told that I'm a superhead?
No, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not establish himself as the Supreme Personality of God. He comes in what they call a covered incarnation. He is the Supreme Lord. He showed it a few times in very intimate association, like during this Mahaprakash Leela, during this Leela of Lord Nityananda's Vyas Puja and the engagement with Advaita Acharya. But he did not announce it because he wanted to show how a devotee should act in devotion. So he established. So people would sometimes who came to know, oh, you're the Supreme Lord, he would deny and resist that type of establishment. Whereas when Krishna came, he established, I am the Supreme. I am Purushottama, right? But when he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's coming in this particular mood to teach us bhakti. And so for that, he does not proclaim himself. Yeah, but of course, in Shastra and Srimad Bhagavatam, we see King Nimi hearing from the Novi of Gendras about different topics, the reference of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all of our Shastras established.
Only as a incarnation in the form of Krishna, he says, I am the Supreme Lord, not in other line.
Not only other 9, other unlimited.
That we know of.
We only know a handful of the incarnations. And remember, when Krishna appears, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not an incarnation of Krishna. It is Krishna himself appearing. Bhakta Rupa. He's appearing as himself. He's appearing as himself. Advaita Acharya is an incarnation. Lord Nityananda is Bhakta Swarup. Expansion. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, but in the mood of a devotee. So it is Krishna himself appearing. It is not an incarnation, not an expansion. Otherwise, Bhakta Rupa. Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam, Bhakta Rupa, Swarupakam, Bhakta Avatar. So Rupa, Swarupa, and Avatar are the 3 Vishnu Tattvas within the Panchatattva. Okay? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So next week we'll discuss the appearance of Lord Nityananda. As his appearance day is on Thursday. We'll be having a festival on Thursday evening at the temple and also on Sunday. So very, very auspicious day. So please make use of these most important days in our spiritual calendar. The appearance days, particularly of Lord Nityananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as we study the appearance of Lord Nityananda, we'll see, we need the mercy of Advaita Acharya to come to the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu. And we'll see how much we need the mercy of Lord Nityananda to obtain the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I look forward to celebrating that with all of you next week. Okay? So let us chant. Thank you very much again. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.